Hello, I'm Nathan from Serious Geeks, and today's tactical article will be slightly different in that it will be a review of the Space Wolf rules as shown in Psychic Awakening Saga of the Beast. Jumping straight in, as you can see, the usual upgrades for Marines, Shock Assault and Bolter Discipline are all present and accounted for in this supplement. As can be expected, Space Wolves have got their own super doctrine, as many people have termed it, in that they've got Savage Fury. So whilst in Assault Doctrine, if an unmodified hit roll of a 6 is made for an attack made with a melee weapon by a unit with this ability, that attack scores 1 additional hit on the target. This means that Space Wolves are particularly specialised in taking down their opponents in close combat with a flurry of attacks, mounting hit after hit on the enemy so that they take them down in just pure weight of numbers. This doesn't mean that Space Wolf attacks are quite weak, because they have a lot of access to Thunder Hammers, Power Fists, Frost weapons, as well as power swords and power axes, as can be expected from most Space Marine armies. The usual upgrades from Primaris have been added to the Space Wolf repertoire. There's all the Phobos captains and units that are present and accounted for, as well as an upgraded version of the Intercessors, using the upgrades that they can have actually within the unit, such as a Thunder Hammer on the Sergeant. Not much to talk about here. This is kind of as expected, so I'll move on quickly. Priests echo their Space Marine counterparts in that they have the Litanies of Battle access now, as well as their own one which is on the screen right now. This Litany of Battle gives +1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons of a single unit is cast upon. As you can probably expect, this means that Wolfen, Thunder Wolves, any unit with a lot of attacks will be rending apart vehicles quite readily. The limitations of this Litany of Battle is that it only affects vehicles and monsters. If a knight is bearing down on you, you can rest assured that your wolf priest that can boost up nearby units is going to play a pivotal role in bringing it down. However, it will not help you against a horde of gene stealers or orcs. Now we've got to move on to Ragnar Blackmane. This is the first datasheet in this book, and for good reason. Ragnar will have the normal Primaris captain stats, except he has a monstrous 7 attacks. I don't think there are any other units in the game that can boast a single model with such attacks. Even Roboute Guilliman only has 6. Likewise, his weapons, in particular the Frostfang, is a souped up Space Marine Relic Blade, hitting at +2 strength for a basic of 6, -4 AP and a damage of 2. This is quite a fair weapon because toughness 4 is still only wounded on 3+. But what will elevate this model to stardom in game are his abilities. Battle Lust gives friendly Space Wolf units within 6 a 6-inch consolidation. Might not sound like much, but it means that you can quickly overwhelm someone's lines and jump into other units and cause all sorts of problems that will force the opponent to fall back or be tied up in close combat. You can surround units a lot easier with this. War Howl allows Space Wolf units within 6, other than vehicles, to reroll charge rolls. This is immense, as it means that your Space Wolves are more likely to actually make close combat and not be shot off the board a turn earlier. Lastly, there are 3 more abilities that this Wolf Lord has. A Captain style benefits of a 4+ invulnerable save from the Belt of Rust, reroll hit rolls of a 1 for attacks made by Space Wolf units within 6 inches, which does, as always, include himself. Rounding out his rule set, Ragnar himself gets 3 attacks from the Shock Assault ability instead of 1 for a whooping 10 attacks. So the first round of combat, he's going to be unstoppable. Remember, as a Space Wolf, he'll add +1 to hit rolls where relevant, and in the Assault Doctrine, he'll also score an additional hit for each hit of a 6, with an extra pip of AP to boot. If you roll well, you're looking at easily 15 hits in close combat. My take on Ragnar Blackmane? He's an incredibly powerful assault force that will boost up any Space Wolf army around him. His biggest weakness is he only has a movement of 6, which means that he will need to pay for an expensive transport to be able to get into close combat. And since that his abilities are best boosted from outside of transport, this could be a little bit of a problem. The best units to accompany Ragnar are generally not the usual Primaris or Space Wolf units, but Wolfen and Thunder Wolf cavalry. These units are quite fast and will want to get into close combat as soon as possible, which means they can actually leave him behind, which kind of negates the reason for taking him. The best solution for this, as I can see, is to put him in an impulsor vehicle, and then that way, in the very first turn, he can move across the table, boosting up the units that you want to charge in, and getting close enough to actually move into an assault position in turn 2 onwards. Good friend of mine plays Space Wolves, and I look forward to seeing what this model can do on the table, though I'm sure I may regret those words when it's chopping through my Ultramarines rather easily. Moving on, we can see that the Space Wolves have now got access to the Vanguard Phobos related Warlord traits and Librarian psychic powers. Not much to say here. I'm just glad that many Space Wolf players have the option to take these units and take these specialisations where suitable. After all, building a theme is part of the parcel of playing 40k and having fun. The next section for us to look over will be the stratagems. Many of these are the usual stratagem support that all Space Marines get access to, even the Death Watch. Duty Eternal, Bolt Storm, Rapid Fire, the usual ones that all Space Marines get access to. One of particular note would be Transhuman Physiology, which we all know is one of the best stratagems in the entire game, as it enables a unit to be a much more survivable unit in the face of extreme odds. It's very flexible. You can use it on characters or you can use it on entire units. It makes Terminators a lot more powerful, makes them a lot more survivable, as well as making actual characters who might be up against someone particularly powerful and dangerous a lot more likely to survive. Hint hint, use it on Ragnar. You won't be disappointed. Picking out new stratagems, one that I particularly enjoy is Knowledge of the Foe. Space Marines have always been able to consume the flesh of their enemies in the background, giving them a little bit of their knowledge and a little bit of their memories. This is a great inclusion, as it means that if a character is killed in close combat by a Space Wolf unit, for 0 command points, you can gain 1 command point back. It's always good to gain a command point, but it's also always a lot better to play it to a theme. Just the thought of eating your opponent's characters after killing them, it just adds insult to injury, and it's so thematic, it's brilliant. The next stratagem that caught my eye was Crushing Assault, which for Thunderwolf Cavalry means that they can cause a mortal wound on a 2+ per model, which most people would like to take a large unit of them. 6 accompanied by Ragnar means that you have a great mortal wound output as well as all of the attacks that you've already got. Touch of the Wild, the next stratagem we're looking at, changes Savage Fury to effect on a 4+ instead of a 6+. As you could probably appreciate, this is phenomenal. It means that a Thunderwolf Cavalry unit or a Wolfen unit can put on an amazing amount of hits and attacks on the opponent, and Ragnar himself can score an average of about 15 attacks, hitting every turn. Those stratagems are 1 command point each, which is incredibly cheap and very useful. Just Executioners is a nice little stratagem that can boost up a Wolf Guard unit, but more importantly, it harkens back to the old Executioner role that Russ himself assumed that he had. A little bit of controversy in that many Space Wolf players will swear blind that it was true that they were the Emperor's Executioners. However, this is a nice little stratagem to help boost up that idea, and I think that is only going to be a fun thing to use. Next up we have Storm Strike, which for just 1 command point boosts up your Stormfang gunships rather nicely. Not much to say here. If you've got a Hellfrost Destructor and you want to get the most out of it, pop 1 command point for it and enjoy +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and +1 to damage. Very nice. The last nice little stratagem boost is Death Grip Bite, which is for Thunderwolf Cavalry and enables the actual teeth and claws of the wolves themselves to do damage too. They're already strength 5, which is actually incredibly high. When you consider that the Thunder Wolves themselves would be ridden by Space Wolves with Thunder Hammers, Power Axes and the like, and you might even be using a Wolf Priest to boost them up even further, you can see that you can do a lot of damage on the opponent's heavy units. The last section to discuss will be the Relic section, which is always a little bit of fun. I'm not going to go over the points later on because, let's be honest, points change all the time and it is a lot of information that will be quite dry. So, looking at the relics, we can see there's some nice ones here. Certainly a lot of them are very fun. Right from the very first one, the Mountain Breaker Helm looks to be great fun. An infantry model that was within 1 inch of an enemy model before consolidation on a 2+ can do D3 mortal wounds. It's not brilliant, but it can be a nice little addition to whatever damage you need to do, particularly if you want to finish off a unit or an expensive character. Likewise, the Talisman of Storms allows a single Rune Priest to do quite a lot of damage to the opponents if they're within close range. They're able to cause a mortal wound to the opponents if they're within 12 inches on a 4+ of the first psychic power each turn. Like Smite, it has to be the closest enemy unit. Again, it's not game breaking, but it's a nice little addition. There's also a smattering of weapons that we can choose from as Space Wolf characters. However, A lot of them are quite niche. They are nice weapons, very characterful, just like the previous upgrades, but again, nothing too game breaking. Of note, the Worm Splitter probably seems to be the most powerful outwardly, because it has quite a large damage characteristic against vehicles and monsters. However, it is only +1 strength, which means you will struggle to wound some of the biggest creatures. Storm Song makes a single Phobos or Primaris character with a Stalker bolt rifle very powerful, gives you a nice little sniper ability, so you don't have to sacrifice your doctrine rules by taking in an Imperial Assassin. Whether it would see its position within competitive army lists, it remains to be seen. It's a matter of flavour. A lot of players will use a Phobos captain, and you don't really need to upgrade those dudes if you want to do some damage with the opponent's characters. They already come with a mastercrafted sniper weapon. Still, it's a very nice sniper weapon, and probably something that could make its way into some lists. The next weapon that is definitely of note is Morkay's Teeth Bolts. You can only make a single shot with it, and it only causes 1 mortal wound if you hit. However, subsequent attacks against the target will benefit from a reroll 1s to wound. Again, it's not game breaking, but it is a very characterful way of playing, and something that people might want to bear in mind. These sort of combinations are often very popular. Imagine marking an enemy unit for your long fangs to be able to hit them. They get a native reroll 1s to hit, and then they can enjoy a native reroll 1s to wound, which means that you don't have to babysit them with characters. The very last relic is, in my eyes, quite a competitive one. The Wolf-Tailed Talisman means that any enemy models that are psykers within 18 inches of the bearer will have a -2 to their psychic tests each turn. This is incredibly useful, and I think it will be in most competitive army lists. Even a smite, which is generally seen as quite an easy power to get off, will be quite difficult, especially after the very first one. Overall, the relics aren't particularly overpowering, more flavourful than anything else. I'd say the very last relic, the Wolf-Tailed Talisman, is very useful, and it would probably make it into most army lists, regardless of army, regardless of even race really. I think even Eldari would use them. Tau would probably love it. As for the rest of the review, I think Space Wolves overall, in summary, are quite powerful. They're very useful on the tabletop and in assault capacity, but the age-old problem in 40k is how do you get to assault? In my eyes, the most powerful Space Wolf army will have loads of Wolfen and loads of Thunderwolf cavalry, supported by some decent weapons, probably in long fang capacity. Such an army is actually heavily boosted by Ragnar, who can sit in the middle of that assault force and give all of his bonuses and benefits to them, so they can reroll charge rolls, have greater consolidation, and along with all the other benefits that those units have, because they're often quite tough, particularly with Storm Shields and Thunderwolf cavalry, you do actually have a reasonable assault force. I think the trick with Space Wolves is to put pressure on the opponents very early. You can't just charge up the table, allow the opponent to shoot, and then hope that you have enough models to charge and win the game. I think you need to not just shoot the opponent from a distance in support of that, but put movement pressure from, say, drop pods and other attacking elements around that assault force. So the enemy really does have to make some difficult decisions. And as I've always maintained, that is the only way to beat a player that is going to have a massive advantage in the shooting phase over you. Anyway, that's it for the review. Please comment below if you agree with any of my options or if you totally disagree. Always happy to hear what people have to say. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you all soon. Thank you very much.